Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time today. Hello, everyone. My name is Avery Robbins, and I'm here with AgileLaw, and we're going to be talking about Aaron Craig and specifically how AgileLaw has been able to help him. Aaron, if you just want to open up with a little introduction about yourself.
I'm Aaron Craig. I'm a lawyer currently at Graves Garrett LLC. Been at a number of firms throughout my career, and just happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you taking the time. Now, we got a couple questions we're just going to dive into. I'll definitely try and keep it short for you.
Yep.
Real quick, how long have you been an AgileLaw customer now?
I want to say 2019 was probably somewhere around in there. We were one of the early adopters, I believe, at a former law firm that myself and a few other people started called Peak Litigation.
Awesome. Right on. You were one of the pre-COVID customers that they had.
We were. Yeah, it was very nice during the COVID era to have that in our back pocket.
Absolutely. Well, now talk about kind of the old way of how you were doing things before AgileLaw. How were you managing your deposition exhibits before introducing AgileLaw?
Yeah, it was a standard practice of having to go through your e-discovery platform, pick out the documents that you wanted, having somebody print off a hard copy. Usually, if it was a document that you knew you wanted to use, you'd print off a copy for you, a copy for the witness, a copy for as many opposing counsel as you thought would be there. And then going through, looking at your hard copy, making your own edits and highlights and notes and that sort of thing, and then dragging the whole thing to a deposition with you. If it was somewhere that wasn't local, it was a real pain.
Absolutely. And what would you say, talking about those pain points, what would you say was one of the biggest problems or pain points you would have in that way of doing it?
The volume in today's sort of legal environment with ESI and everything, you might have, I was working on cases where we'd have 1 million documents, and that may just be for one party. I spent years where we were doing stuff and having to lug around multiple bankers boxes. I've had various depositions throughout the United States where we had to take, 2-3 bankers boxes, where myself or somebody else would have to, transport those throughout the airport and try to make connections. And it gets really onerous.
Oh, I can imagine. Now, what was the first point of contact you had with AgileLaw? Like, how did you hear about AgileLaw, especially pre-COVID?
Yeah, we're a smaller firm, but handling kind of boutique, high level, high document volume type work with a lot of depositions kind of nationally. So we were just looking for something that would streamline that whole process and kind of minimize the amount of work. A lot of times it was just one attorney, that might have to fly to the East Coast, West Coast from the Midwest, and trying to figure out a way that would streamline that, also allow us to work a little more collegially. One of the downsides, I guess, of the old way of doing things would be it's hard for somebody to share notes. If I have an associate that was working on something, it's fine to have them pull together a document set, but you start adding a bunch of notes, and then, I got to look at it and add my notes, and it becomes hard to do. But with a program like Agile, essentially an endless amount of note-taking space, you can delete notes that you disagree with, or you can add your notes to somebody else's notes. I really like that aspect of it. And for a smaller kind of boutique firm, that was something that was really enticing.
Absolutely. And after talking with, one of our team, what was it that kind of made you decide to pull the trigger and do business with us and give us a shot?
We had a demo that we liked the function, the functionality that we saw, and there was a free trial for a little while. So we did that. I think during the usage period of the free trial, we had 1 or 2 depositions where we really liked it. It was just an easy kind of seamless integration. we done some remote deposition stuff as well, and it's so much better than trying to upload things to a court reporter and then having people download it, and you got to wait for 5 minutes while somebody's having difficulties. I can't open this thing, it's in the wrong format, that sort of thing. So we saw a lot of upside benefit very quickly from the program, and cost wise, I think it eliminated a lot of headaches. We wanted to get away from paper as much as we could, so that helped minimize the paper footprint, and obviously the weight and just pain of lugging things around from that perspective. So it just very quickly became something that, from a cost benefit analysis, was a no-brainer, really.
Absolutely. Now, is there any area in particular throughout the entire process? Because as you know, AgileLaw helps from beginning to end through the deposition process. Is there an area where you see the most value in that process?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the ability to take the notes and keep them on sort of the side with the highlights. You can highlight, you can make your notes. A lot of people do depositions very differently, but I think when you're working with documents, one thing that's just very nice is to have, a direct link from notes, maybe a question, to the text that's highlighted that you want to use. You can essentially use it as an outline when you're, in your document heavy portion of your deposition, to say, even if I've got a document that's 100 pages long in a PDF, right? I can click exactly on a place that I found something relevant, and it'll go directly to that page. I can direct the witness to that page. I've got questions that line up with highlighted text. For just preparing, I think I can read it. Sometimes I can't read my own handwriting. It has eliminated, all the sticky tabs and things that sometimes in transit would fall off on page 67 of that 100-page thing, and then you'd have to be digging through your document trying to look for it. So I think from an organizational, just time management and practice, that's been the best, I think, for me. Secondarily, it's so much easier to trust the system as opposed to, having an LAA go through it, make multiple copies. Sometimes you got 5 or 6 different copies of the same document that you want to use in a given deposition. If you've got a bunch of parties, or you've got a bunch of opposing counsel that, demand having their own copies. So then you've got to go through each one of those and make sure, is every page here? Are we good? Do I have 5 copies of everything? So it cuts down on a lot of time there as well. And then obviously just not having to lug it around is really nice, and post-COVID, everybody's doing a lot more remote stuff. So I use it both remote and live, anywhere that I possibly can. And it's been really nice.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Now, to kind of piggyback on the exhibits, I mean, one thing we've heard from, and maybe you've had a case like this, has there been any experience where you were able to introduce an exhibit using AgileLaw that maybe before implementing AgileLaw, you wouldn't have been able to do that?
I think, Excel, the Excel side is nice. It's hard to do sometimes in a paper format. If you've got a long, if you've got an Excel file that spans a whole bunch of columns, it's hard to print that and then use it in a meaningful way in a deposition. So I think that can be very useful during electronic depositions or in-person depositions. And then you can just, have the court reporter take the file and mark the file as an exhibit, and you've got a transcript that goes along with, you can do it by rows and columns, and we're at E6 or whatever, and people can track along that way.
Absolutely. Now, one question I always like to ask in these is, tell me just from your own perspective, what's the comparison in the time that it takes you to introduce a new exhibit with AgileLaw versus having to do it the old way with paper?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the preparation as far as how much time it takes to get from 0 to having the documents available to transporting them to then introducing them. I don't think it takes a whole lot more time as far as introducing them necessarily. If I've got all the paper, I just, you spread them out and you tell everybody this is the exhibit and we're marking for identification, and you move on. But I think it's in all the steps that happen before that, and the fact that I can push a button and promote it to everybody's screen, and it's right there, and then they can do whatever they want with it. I think that's, I mean, it's a little faster, let's put it that way. Yeah. But for me, the big time savings, marked in hours and not a few seconds or a minute, right, comes in the process before.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, that's one of the things. AgileLaw is start to finish through that whole process. So last question that I have for you today is, how likely are you to recommend AgileLaw? And if someone's watching this video right now, like, why would you recommend them to take action now and book a call to check it out?
I would highly recommend AgileLaw. And, in fact, I have a number of firms have taken, I think, AgileLaw up basically on my recommendation. And it's something that, once you've used it in comparison to other products, or even if you're on the other side, I think it's just it's a more streamlined, easier approach, especially in today's world where people are doing things, remote more often. It's far better than the alternatives that I've came across. So, yeah, I mean, if anybody out there is looking for a solution for, an online platform to do remote or in person, I use them both ways. I think it's a very good, cost-effective, efficient program that you can use with, other members of your firm in a more collegial manner. Saves paper. It helps, save the back and travel time and just pain in that fashion. And it's free to try. I think there's at least a 7-day free trial period. So sign up, try to use it. If nothing else, do some demos during that 7-day period. And if you do, I think you'll like it.
Awesome. We appreciate your time and attention today, Aaron, and thanks for all the insight, that you were able to give.
You bet. Happy to help.